So here's how it often works. You've finally stepped away from that toxic relationship. You've broken free and you're starting to heal. You're starting to feel really good about yourself. And suddenly, poof, they reappear like a ghost from the past, acting as though nothing happened. So let's talk about why narcissists do this and what's really going on behind their unexpected return. Welcome to the Common Ego community. My name is Christina, and I'm a toxic relationship recovery coach. And if you think you've had a relationship with a narcissist, I've got a free checklist that can help you see how your own experience stacks up with the phases of narcissistic abuse. And you'll find a link for that in the description. So now let's get to those reasons. Why do they come back like nothing happened, even if they've burned many bridges? So reason number one could be you're their backup plan. And I know that sounds a little harsh, but I also know that some of you need to hear this harsh truth. Because if you think you were dealing with a narcissist, going back is not a good idea. And here's a hard truth about narcissists. They always do keep a backup plan. When their primary source of validation starts to crumble, they'll boomerang right back to you. Not because they genuinely miss you, even though it feels that way, but because you're their emotional safety net. Essentially a source of supply that they can just slide right back into because they already know you very well and they know how to get what they want out of you. So now enter the concept of monkey branching, which is a calculated relationship strategy where they never let go of one connection before securing another. So it's kind of like a monkey swinging from branch to branch. And another sad truth is that you may have been an alternative at one point or another. So how does this look? Well, they'll reach out casually as if months or years have not passed, as if all of that previous drama had never happened. And they'll come back with no apology usually and no explanation, just a breezy, hey, that suggests complete emotional amnesia. So why do they do this? Because to them, you're not a person with complex feelings. You're a resource, a contingency plan, a potential rescue boat when their current relationship eventually, inevitably, comes to a shipwreck. And here's a comment from one of you who really gets this. This commenter says, "It's so foreign to me to have a backup without caring for that person in the least. It's so sick. My boss did this to me. My dad too, and my ex." And here's why this tends to work so often when they come back around. They're betting on your familiarity and your history. They're betting that you have some lingering feelings, or they're betting on your innate kindness. They're counting on you being just vulnerable enough to let them slide back into your life. But here's the real power move. You, and only you, get to decide whether that branch is available. You control their access. So now let's talk about another reason they come back as if nothing happened. And that's they sense your healing progress. So narcissists have a predatory sixth sense for vulnerability. Not only do they detect and exploit weakness, but they can also detect strength. And that's what really triggers them, especially if they've been able to manipulate you in the past and they're counting on coming back to do it again. So imagine you're out there doing the hard work. Maybe you're in therapy or doing loads of self-reflection and rebuilding those ever-important boundaries. You're standing taller, speaking clearer, setting limits that would have been impossible before. And just when you think you're finally moving forward, that's when they'll reappear. It's not a coincidence. It's a calculated move. Your healing isn't something they celebrate. It's a challenge they can't resist. To them, your growing confidence looks like a fortress they need to breach. Your newfound boundaries are just walls waiting to be scaled. And your emotional recovery is a game to them. And they're determined to win this game. They're determined to take you down. Because if they can win, if they can pull you back down to where you were before, that's the ultimate ego boost for them. So their return, it's not about love or genuine connection. It's about proving that they can still destabilize you. So they want to know if they can still make you doubt yourself. Can they still provoke that familiar emotional spiral? As you might have guessed by now, this is all about control. So they'll use subtle tactics like a seemingly innocent text or a strategic social media interaction, an accidental encounter maybe. And their goal is to create just enough disruption to see if they can find a foot in the door. All they need is a tiny crack to make their way back in and destroy all your hard work. But here's what you always need to remind yourself. Responding gives them exactly what they want. Your reaction, whether it's anger, confusion, or pain, it's like their trophy. So silence and continued self-focus is the true power move. No matter how much you want to tell them off, silence is the way to go. And here's a comment from one of you that illustrates how well the power of silence works on a narcissist. I tried fighting my controlling husband, but after a while, I realized silence and no reaction worked against him. I now only respond with one word: rude. And he absolutely does not know how to handle that, and it shuts him up. So now let's move on to another reason a narcissist will come back like nothing happened. They want to maintain control. So you may have noticed if you are in a relationship with a narcissist for long enough, what tends to happen, especially if there's been like some on again, off again, which is also very common, what tends to happen is you'll experience some breadcrumbing in your off moments. So you're not really in full contact with this person, but every once in a while they'll reach out with just a little feeler, and it'll be completely non-committal and possibly even confusing. And to you, it feels like, oh, well, that's nice because it's nice to know that I'm on this person's mind, right? But to them, it's really just to keep you on the shelf. They want to make sure that you don't fully move on so that they might be able to come back later on if they want to. So none of this is about missing you. It's about maintaining their influence. They want to know that they can still make your heart rate spike with just a few words. And always remember how that one message can still potentially derail all the peace you've constructed. So again, in this case, silence is always the best answer. Even responding to tell them to back off, to leave you alone. That's a response, and that is fuel for them. The best thing you can do is just block the number and move on if you possibly can. For them, it's always about keeping you just unsettled enough to remember that they exist. Not because they care about you, but because your continued awareness validates their sense of power and control. And entitlement, really. It takes a lot of entitlement to come back into someone's life after discarding, after burning bridges, after getting caught lying to somebody's face or cheating. It takes a lot of entitlement to do that. And we know that narcissists have entitlement in spades. So another reason a narcissist may come back like nothing happened is their current situation isn't working. So remember we talked about monkey branching. So before they cut that relationship with you, they may have had feelers out for someone else. So they probably knew where they were going after they ended things with you. Maybe they even started that up before they truly ended this. It's just how it usually works with a narcissist. So if you think about that monkey going from this branch to this branch, just think of it in reverse. If this branch isn't working out so well, if you're thinking like a narcissist, it might just be the easiest thing to do to just swing right back. And that doesn't mean that they're going to be there for good. It may only be a week or a month until they can line up their next source of supply. So depending on where you are in your recovery, I know a lot of people who are fresh out of it feel flattered when the narcissist comes back around again. And they think, okay, well, this is the chance. This is finally going to work this time. But ultimately, with a narcissist, that swing back means nothing. And it's really important to recognize that, even though it might be a little difficult. And also, if you're in this phase, since we're talking about this monkey branching thing and moving on very quickly, I want to just send a message to all of you who might be dealing with this right now, because you might be feeling like that new person, that new supply for the narcissist is getting everything that you didn't get, and that they're getting a version of that person that you never saw or that you always wanted. And usually this is by design. Usually if they can, they will make it seem like everything is everything that you've ever wanted. And sometimes even if it's not by design, it's just by nature of narcissistic abuse. It begins with the love bombing phase, and that's when everything appears all rosy. And the real reason I want to call this out for you guys is because this is the part where you might start questioning yourself, where you might look over there and say, well, this looks like everything is good. It looks on the surface or from the outside, it looks really healthy. And you might start questioning yourself and wondering, were you the problem the whole time? And I just want to let you know that that is super common, also by design. And just like the narcissist wanted you to doubt yourself all along, this is just a continuation of that. So if you really want to get back at them, stop doubting yourself and start working on yourself. Start building yourself up, because that's what's really going to get them. And yes, in a way, it might beat them to come back, but hopefully at that point, you'll be strong enough to turn them down. So now when they slide into your DMs with that lame, non-committal message, I want you to remember you are not an option. You're the one who got away. So stick with that and stay away. So now another reason why a narcissist may come around like nothing happened is they haven't really found a suitable replacement yet. So narcissists are emotional opportunists, and they're constantly shopping for their next source of validation. And they do not like to go without this validation. And so that's why that monkey branching thing is so common. But narcissists are also, a little full of themselves and a little bit entitled. So they may leave a relationship thinking that they have something else lined up, or thinking that it would be easy for them to replace you. Does that sound familiar? You may have even heard that when you were in the relationship. Narcissists do very much think that people are replaceable. They are like pawns. And so they might leave the relationship thinking it's going to be so easy to find somebody to fill your spot. And if they don't find that person, rest assured 9 times out of 10, they will be back. And so here's where I want to talk about the narcissist's harem. And this is a term that's used to describe the, Rolodex of ex connections that a narcissist will keep and keep in touch with. And if you are in a romantic relationship with a narcissist, you may notice this. You may notice that there were still exes in the picture. And maybe there were questions about what kind of connections they had. Maybe their exes were their best friends, or there was a lot of conflict, but yet they always seemed to end up coming together. So if you're in this place where you feel like the narcissist is going to swing back around, or if they're breadcrumbing and reaching out to you to see if you're still a warm lead, I urge you to understand that to a narcissist, no one is special. Again, tough pill to swallow. But it's really important to understand that if you do allow them to swing back, you may not be the only one they're swinging to. And so ask yourself 2 questions. 1, do I really want to be part of that? And 2, do I want to be that person for someone else? Because eventually they're going to end up with a new primary supply. And if you know what it feels like to be the primary relationship with a narcissist and knowing that there are those other branches out there, do you really want to be that for someone else? So if you're not able to stay strong for yourself, maybe it would be helpful to think of someone else. Maybe it would be helpful to think of that next person. Do you really want to be an invisible player in that relationship? I'm thinking probably not. And if you're thinking that your situation is different, your relationship is different, maybe you're not dealing with a true narcissist. But if there has been emotional abuse in the relationship, it doesn't matter if they're a narcissist. They've treated you as an option, and you can bet they're going to continue treating you that way. So of all the stuff that we're talking about here, most of this is also going to be relevant to you. So I don't know about you, but I don't know about any success stories where someone has been treated like an option or a doormat, and then all of a sudden, the other person had a change of heart and they lived happily ever after. So please consider that before you allow this person back into your life. And I want to give you some warning signs to look out for that this is happening, that this person is coming back and they're essentially treating you like an option. So 1 is sudden contact after a very long period of time. So if there's been a long silence, why has that been? Did it really take them that long to realize that you were the one? And if so, how does that happen? What is going on there? So another sign can be superficial or seemingly scripted communication. If it just seems inauthentic, it probably is. And also I want you to look for genuine accountability for their past harm, right? The ways that they've done you wrong. Does it seem like they genuinely feel bad about it? Even if it does feel like they genuinely feel bad about it, if this is not the first time that it seems that they genuinely feel bad about it and they keep doing it, then they don't feel bad about it. So you can also look out for control over connection. Does it seem like control is more important to them than connection is? So if all these things are happening, then this sporadic reappearance, it's a manipulation tactic and it's not an olive branch. So they're essentially checking to see if you're still available on their emotional shelf. And you, my friend, you are worth a whole lot more than that. I promise you. You are not a backup plan. You are not an option to be used when it's convenient for someone else. You deserve relationships built on consistent respect, genuine care, and mutual understanding. And what's more, your worth is not determined by this momentary interest that they may have in you. And that is a full stop. Their interest in you or lack thereof has nothing to do with your value. So another reason that a narcissist will come back like nothing happened is that they want to test your boundaries. So boundaries are kind of like kryptonite to a narcissist. They see them not as healthy, protective measures, but as challenges to be conquered. Narcissists want to gauge how much they can get away with without fully re-entering your life. And like I've mentioned, breadcrumbing is the primary technique that they'll use. So this might look like occasional cryptic text messages, sending memes or inside jokes, brief, seemingly random check-in calls, indirect communication through mutual friends, or really any kind of communication where they just come up out of the blue and disappear in a similar fashion. But here's the truth. Each breadcrumb is really like a test, and they're testing how quickly you'll respond and how much emotional energy you'll invest and whether you're still susceptible to their manipulation. And if you are, they win because they're able to keep that emotional connection and they're able to continue taking up space rent-free in your head for an indefinite period of time without making any sort of commitment at all. And here's a comment from one of you who understands breadcrumbing very well. There's always a reason behind it, and sometimes it's pretty obvious. So this commenter says, I cut him off without any warning a year ago. He has tried texting, calling a handful of times, to which I decided not to answer at all. He just tried calling again. I will not answer. He just wants to keep minimum contact to be in my will. And yes, that sounds very much like a narcissist's move. But if you're dealing with any of this right now, I just want you to know it is so common for narcissists to show up like nothing happened, even after the most brutal discard. But I do think it's important for you to know that not every narcissist will come back. And whether they do or don't, again, it has nothing to do with you and it has nothing to do with your value. But if you do want to get a peek into what's going on behind the scenes after you go no contact, watch the video that just popped up on the screen. And don't forget to like this video if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time.